Welcome to Just Business Talk, another great episode. So we have a very special guest today, Tali Levin. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Thank you for coming. She is with Transworld Advisors in North Dallas. I'm really excited to have you, Tali, on my show today.
Thanks so much, Tahir. And I just want to make a quick correction that I'm in the Colorado office. Our owners do have the North Texas territory too, but we're in Colorado.
Right. Okay. You call it Rockies, right? Colorado is Rockies. Okay, cool. One of my favorite places on my bucket list to visit one day. Right. Good to have you on my show today, Tali. So, Tali, let's get into know you first. Tell us who's Tali, what brought you in business brokerage, what's your background is, and so tell us about you, who you are.
Well, I'm coming out of 30 years in the automotive industry. I was a single mom with a broken car and took it in to get fixed when I was about 19 and felt like I was being taken advantage of by the service advisor. I didn't believe what I was being told and I didn't know enough to challenge that. And I felt so vulnerable and I hate that feeling. So, my grandmother always said, if you can read, you can cook. And I really think that applies to anything. If you can follow a recipe or instructions or a schematic, I mean, there's really nothing you can't do. So I enrolled in automotive college and became an ASE certified tech in 95 and spent 20 years in parts and service and 10 years in sales and finance. I've kind of specialized in helping women navigate this male-dominated and intimidating space that is the automotive industry. So I had mentioned that I'm the daughter of a small business owner and a social worker. And so I have a huge advocating nature for my clients and really know that it's an intimidating space. It's a big purchase. I used to think that a car or a house or some of the biggest purchases that people make, but I didn't even think about their business. One day I was an auto broker and I sold a car to a business broker. And it wasn't even in my radar. I had never even heard of that career. Unless you're buying and selling a lot of businesses or in investment banking, a lot of times it's not a career that you're really familiar with, but it was everything that I loved about brokering, with the problem solving and the creative deal structuring and the the protective nature of my clients and helping lead them through the process without the cars. And when COVID hit and the chip shortage happened and Toyota was charging $20,000 over sticker price on a Tundra, I was done. I was like, I'm not going to perpetuate this on my clients. This isn't why I got in this industry. And so I pivoted into brokering businesses instead of cars, and it's been a wonderful transition.
Great. Were you born in Colorado? You grew up there?
Nope. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area. So we came out in 2011. I mean, our jobs weren't tied to the tech industry, and we were allocating 70% of our gross income to housing. And once we had kids, we were like, it's not even worth tying our shoes and going to work in the morning if we're going to turn over everything. So we moved to Colorado, and it's been amazing. I love the Rockies. You should come. I'll be happy to take you out to dinner and show you.
That's on my bucket list. I told you I'm definitely going to get in touch with you when I'm there. So how was your transition like? So when you transitioned from as a auto broker to a business broker, so why did you choose business brokerage, not anything else?
Well, it made perfect sense. It was a very transferable skill, like I mentioned. And, the first year is a steep and violent descent. It's a lot of, it's a long sales cycle. And, and you eat what you kill. And so there's a lot of networking and a lot of, building of a pipeline and relationships. It's a much more relationship versus transactional kind of an experience. I mean, when you're selling cars, though, you sell hopefully every car they ever buy, and you take care of families for years and the whole family. And so there is a relationship piece of it. The transaction piece, the sale is pretty quick and there's instant gratification and everybody's happy. And, in business sales, it's not always that smooth. It's not always as obvious where the value lies. It truly, lies in the eyes of the buyer. It's not like you've got, there's of course valuation resources and indexes and comps that you can use, but truly values in the eye of the buyer. And so being able to to be able to build up a pipeline and have realistic expectations with sellers and be able to help guide them towards a successful exit has been
right.
fulfilling. Yeah, lovely.
Yeah. Sometime when you see a deal falls off at the last minute, do you regret becoming a business broker? Do you get these thoughts
No,
sometimes?
but
Oh
it
my
makes
God,
me
why am I
sad.
a business broker?
I got a deal under contract this morning that I've had under contract for 3 times. And through no
Right,
fault of my seller, it's fallen out 3 times. And
right,
it's so disheartening. It's exciting and you're
right.
almost there. And then 4 days before close, the first time,
Exactly.
the FBA guarantee fell through. And so it's an emotional roller coaster, which,
It is.
lends to
It
the
is. Yeah.
relationship piece of it, to be able to regulate all of the
Yeah.
feelings and that come
Yeah.
through in that process.
And we work hard, actually. Many people, they don't understand. So I'm going to do a series on my TikTok videos. So I create a lot of TikTok, and very quickly I'm getting a lot of good traction. So I'm planning to have a series of, backstage, what happens, in a business broker's life day to day, how you negotiate. And there's a lot of work we put in, isn't it? I mean,
A
people
lot.
think, oh yeah, it's easy money, but there's a lot of work in the back end.
Oh my gosh, I liken it to a duck on like swimming across a pond. The top looks calm and placid and quiet. Underneath, they're paddling furiously. So that's what a business broker's life is like. So yes, there's a lot
Yeah.
of work to be able to herd
Yeah.
cats and keep everything on. There's a lot of moving pieces to keep track of in order to get a deal across the finish line successfully. So yeah, that's very valid.
Right. And so you never been a business owner, so you were an auto sales broker, and then you
Nope, I've owned multiple businesses in the automotive space. So
you did. Okay.
self-employed as an independent dealer as an auto broker. So there's one.
Okay.
And then
So
I
that's
had
a
a small
business,
fleet
yeah.
of rental cars too. Yeah. So
Hmm.
I'm close enough to DIA that I was able to have a second business. So yes, I have, but I haven't sold them, but I've definitely owned them.
Okay. How important do you think, as a good business broker, is to be a business owner at one point of their career? How important is that?
I think it's important that you can connect and understand the challenges that the business owner is facing at the time. So the empathy piece is important, but I honestly don't feel that it's a requirement to be a good business broker. I think understanding, the financials, good business acumen is important, but it doesn't need to be formally educated. You can certainly learn those things as we go along. That's one of the things that I think Transworld, that differentiates Transworld from some of the other business brokerage places, is that we hire on culture and potential, and the rest can be taught. And we have a huge office, and it's kind of run like a Montessori, where senior brokers mentor junior brokers, and there's a lot of collaboration. And because it's a second career for so many of us, that we have subject matter experts in almost every field, which is great. So though I'm industry agnostic and we sell everything, I am an automotive expert in everything except for collision and auto body, 30 years worth. So when someone has a seller in the automotive space, they'll loop me in on the seller meeting often, just to be able to ask the right questions and understand the challenges that they face, and make sure that we can value it correctly. I have a huge list of buyers in that space. And we co-broker, which is another differentiator. So I like that, it enables us at Transworld, because we don't have that formal requirement for having been a business owner or having an MBA. I mean, a lot of us do, but we don't require that. So sometimes when you're overeducated, you look at a deal and you judge it. And you're like, I don't want to sell this. It's not cash flowing. It's not worth my time. Like, Transworld really focuses on those Main Street businesses. So I love that. That whole wiring as a social worker and a small business owner's daughter. A successful exit to the mom and pops can be everything to them. And sometimes their house is tied to it, and an SBA loan, or they have a HELOC, or there's debt involved, and they're locked into the lease. And so being able to creatively help them figure out a way to exit when life shows up, and life shows up. It's great. So I like that we focus on the little guys, and we don't prejudge a deal. I can sell anything, and we can sell anything, and we do sell everything, whether it's cash flowing or not. Yeah.
Okay.
There's buyers.
And so when you decided, yeah, so when you decided to do a transition from automotive to business brokerage, so you joined Transworld directly, or you were like, what was your journey like?
I did. After I sold, so I sold a car to a business broker. That's how I found out about this. It was actually a glass van. He had bought a glass company up north, and so I sold him this glass van. And a couple years later, he called me back and said, "Hey, will you buy this back from me? I sold the company." I'm like, "Yeah, sure." He's like, "In my truck?" Okay. And my Subaru, I'm like, "Okay, what are you going to drive? What are you doing here? What's happening?" He's like, "Nothing. I'm retiring to an island east of Belize. I'm done." So I was like, interesting. Business broker. Then COVID happened, and I was looking to pivot, and I'm a member of networking groups. And so I talked to one of the founders and said, "Who do you know who's a business broker? I want to explore that." And so she said, "You need to know Gary Goldwasser," we call him Golden Gary. He's an amazing guy. But it turns out, so I went and had coffee with him. I reached out and said, "Hey, I'm interested in, kind of exploring the space that you're in. Would you meet with me?" He was happy to. He hired me on the spot. It was, like I said, very transferable skill set, and a lot of it's bedside manner. Okay. And
so are you a franchise owner, or you work in that franchise?
I work in that franchise. I am a
you work in that franchise
broker. Yep, through it.
Right.
So our
Okay,
owners, cool. Yeah, our owners are big, and they own many businesses. So.
Right. Okay. And what sort of support do you get as being part of the franchise network? So if someone is listening this today and wants to start in a business brokerage industry, so what your thoughts are? They should consider becoming, part of the franchise or established thing, or it's easy for anybody to go and start their own?
I think that there's a lot of support and training in the franchise model. Generally speaking, I'm not a huge fan of franchises. I've watched them eat their franchisees' lunch. I've sold some difficult franchises. Transworld's amazing in that they are huge. They have 400 offices worldwide, which gives us a presence and connections. Like if I have a buyer, I'm from California, and so people connect with me and say, "Hey, I've got a business in California. Can you help?" And since I'm not licensed in California, and that is a regulation state, I can refer them to another of our offices in California and know that we're all operating under the same premise and kind of the same roles. It also allows us to have more buyers in our database than anybody else in the world, because we all pool our buyers together. We have fixed op staff, so they are able to do things like build my executive summaries while I'm out helping clients. So my time is utilized to its highest and best use, and I'm not bogged down with the minutia of, they have marketing and they have tech support and all of those kind of things that really help us get more deals done. We do a deal a day. Our office, my little office in Colorado, sells over half the businesses in the state. So like last year, we sold 52% of the businesses that sold in Colorado out of my little office. So we've got the lion's share of the buyers, and I've never seen a deal get done without buyers. You had mentioned real estate agents being able to sell businesses in the past. We also are able to do it confidentially, where if you list with a real estate broker, their only resource is to advertise it on CoStar before, it's like the commercial version of the MLS, but it becomes public information. If anybody's looking, they can see that address and back it into what business belongs there, and suddenly your confidentiality is blown, where when you list with the business broker, we can keep it completely confidential and protect things. So there's a lot of reasons why selling through Transworld, plus our big team, again, and the lion's share of the listings. So that all helps.
I like Transworld as a brand. I had one of your early founders at my podcast, Raymond Coppell. Maybe you know him. So he was there, and we had a great chat.
I'm glad.
Yeah, so he's kind of retired now, I believe. And so I think Transworld, you have an office in Dubai. You know that, right?
We do. We've got offices worldwide. Yes.
Yes, they're doing great. They're number 2. We are the largest in Dubai, by the way. They would tell you if you ask them.
All right.
So we're leading. We're leading you in Dubai. So great. So where do you see, Tali, the business brokerage market is heading as whole? what I see in this our industry is a commission only job, and I was doing a little research in US, the business brokerage industry at whole. I think there are 18,000 business brokers in USA, and 70 or 80% of them are above 55. I mean, they are also baby boomers, as everybody's talking about all the baby boomers are retiring. Or I don't think many people realize the fact 80% of business brokers are also baby boomers. Do you agree with this?
I do. It's been an old white man's industry for a long time, a lot of dinosaurs,
Oh,
and
yeah.
they're retiring, and they've been successful in their space. But that's one of the other things about, I think, the next generation of business brokerage, and our office really embodies that, is that we're using fresh blood and technology and innovation to be able to scale and plug in and change the face of traditional business brokering. The limitations. I think one of the things that really bothers me is when a business broker tells a business owner that they have nothing to sell, and that they're not going to represent them because they're not cash flowing enough to fit in their lane and make it worth their while. And that's one of the things that I love about Transworld, is that there isn't a deal too small. Sometimes, we have to be able to get creative to get somebody out of a bad situation. And it may not be as much monetary compensation as some of the other deals, but the reward of seeing them successfully be able to exit and move on with their life carries a lot of value to me, and a lot of value to the people in my office. And so I love that we are residing in Main Street space and of course, we go up to about 25 million. So we're into lower middle market, but we don't tell people no right off the bat. And we help coach and guide and help them scale and prepare for an exit. So we have a whole nother program called Exit Factor, where if their finances aren't where they want it to be, or their numbers, their value isn't where they want it to be, or if they want to scale and grow, we can do that and then help them successfully exit in the future too. So there's a lot of different moving parts to help prepare businesses for sale. And it doesn't matter. We don't have a size minimum at Transworld, which I think that's a big differentiator.
Yeah, and that's where I think the real opportunity is in coming years. The lower mid market, the higher you go, there are bigger players who compete with each other, and the lower mid market segment is underserved.
So we're
need more help.
Yeah, so we're able to change the face of business brokering and use, like I said, technology and innovation and just different ways to reach buyers and sellers and remind them that there is representation, and they don't have to have a closed sign instead of dollar signs at the end of 30 years worth of blood, sweat, and tears.
Yeah. And I think another reason why we don't see many young brokers in this industry, because it's a commission only. And when you're young, so you want a stable income, you need a salary, you have a mortgage, or you have other, financial things. So I think people that just come in this industry when they're above 40 or 50, when they have some. So I think generally when you started a business brokerage, how long did it take for you to close your first deal?
So I am one of those single mom with a mortgage, self-employed, all the things. And so I had 2 businesses when I became a business broker. So the first year I was running 3 businesses, and it was a lot. The second year I was running 2 businesses, and I'm in my 3rd year now, and I'm focusing 100% on Transworld. So the first year I really focused on building relationships, networking, and building my pipeline. And so I wasn't really focused on closing deals right away. I had other revenue sources coming in, thank goodness, so that I could really learn well and serve my clients well. I take that fiduciary piece of what I do very seriously. And so I waited until my first year to push, but I closed in my second year. February is when I started closing, and they all just started closing like dominoes. But,
Great. Yeah. So you start with the listings, right? So when you join with Transworld, the first thing you do is start building your listing pipeline, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like any other broker. So
like any other broker.
So once you get the listing, so then you start selling. Is it also that make me curious, since you have a lot of listings. So do you have a program to work on the buy side as if for a new broker? So instead of working on a sell side, you can work on a buy side, find buyers for the existing listing. Do you do co-brokerage with the other brokers who brings you buyer?
I do, absolutely.
Right.
And I will, you can, it's possible to do like a buyer agreement where they pay you and, and list your services as their exclusive agent as a buy representation. And you can do that. I don't like to because it comes more of a job, and my true job is to support my sellers, but I've never seen a deal get done without buyers. So we definitely meet for coffee and have all of us in our office have a hot list of buyers in different industries. And we go over our listings as a team every week. So when something new comes up and it's in a lane that we've spoken with someone interested in that space, we're able to send over an NDA right away and plug in buyers to opportunities. So yes, we definitely do that. And we co-broker not just within our own office, but I'm happy to share my commission with any broker who brings me a qualified buyer from outside Transworld too. That's the fiduciary piece. I've tried bringing buyers into other brokerage houses for a deal that they have and been told no, they won't share their commission. If the buyer isn't going to pay me directly, they won't even present my offer. And we're regulated by the Department of Real Estate, like Dora. We are real estate agents for businesses. And so that fiduciary piece, when you're not even presenting an offer because you don't know how, that you won't share your commission, that really goes against the grain of how I believe business should be done. And again, that's
Yeah.
another superpower in our office.
Yeah, I think we need more collaboration in this industry. There should be more collaborative approach.
I'll share a situation. So I make friends with other business brokers and other offices too. I have an abundance mindset, and there's enough business for all of us. And I really think
Yeah.
that choosing a broker, there's a lot of different qualifications to be a good fit for a client, but bedside manner is one of the biggest, and how you can connect with that seller. So I'm friends with another business broker outside of the office, and when a deal is too small for his office, he likes to share them with me, and I help get them out. But I have worked in the CBD space before, which is legal, and Transworld, being a franchise, has a lot of regulations on federal law and things that we can and can't do. I can't work in THC, but I can work in CBD. So another business broker contacted me with a client. He just actually introduced him to me, and he was in THC, and I couldn't help him. So I turned it over to another broker in another office who could help him. So it took 3 offices and 3 brokers working together to get him representation. But he's listed and exploring buyers, and he'll have a successful exit. And I'm really grateful that I have a community of brokers here in Denver that we are not viewing each other as competition, but as allies in the space, and working together to help a common cause of business owners exit.
Yeah, and I think it always pays off in a longer term if you keep on building community and connections and with other people some way or another. You start getting referrals as well. This all goes by by the book.
Yeah, it's good business karma. As long as you focus on the relationship in front of you, business will become a natural byproduct of that good relationship. If you focus on the business and not the person, that's going to come through too. And you may get that deal done, but it's not going to be a relation. Yeah, it doesn't have the longevity and the legs that we're aiming for.
In Dubai, we don't have SBA, and we don't have any product or funding options for small business acquisitions. You have SBA. So what is the percentage of your deals SBA versus cash or self-funded?
Well, if it's under $500,000, it's seller finance, cash and carry, or creative structure. We try to avoid the SBA, and the SBA doesn't even want to do deals that little. There's a couple of banks and lenders that will, but they're bogged down and slow, and their closing department's terrible, and trying to get the underwriter on a diligence call to figure out where they are in the process is like pulling teeth. So it's so much easier to structure cash and carry under $500,000. And we have that conversation often and early with sellers. Like, there's a lot of advantages to seller financing, both with being more attractive to a buyer, that you have confidence in your business, that you'll stay on in some capacity and accept a note, and that, you know, there's tax deferment, and there's mailbox money, and just all kinds of reasons for seller financing. The statistics on a lot of sellers are hesitant because, one, they're older and want out fast, and that would be a reason that they don't want to accept payments. And we can structure things with a balloon payment to help alleviate those things. But they also are scared of default. And, you know, we've looked at the statistics, and only 4% of seller notes have defaulted that I've seen nationally. And the escrow company that we work with almost exclusively, and like I said, we do a deal a day, so we do a lot of deals. Not one has ever defaulted through the seller notes they've written through that escrow company. So that's really promising too, reassuring. Okay. And I just, I just had a buyer die on a seller note that I had structured, and I had encouraged him to get life insurance, just like the SBA would require. All of the requirements that the SBA would want to be the lender on a deal, I require of a buyer to do also, so that the seller's protected. And it worked out. I've never had a buyer die on me before this, and it wasn't even 60 days after closing. So I'm really glad that we had that in place.
Okay, so when you structure a deal on seller financing or seller note, so what sort of protection do you put in, or in case if the buyer defaults? So what are the seller's options?
Well, there's a UCC1 lien filed with the state, so that their assets are guaranteed just like they were a bank. And so there's that piece. Plus, if the business defaults, they get the business back. And most sellers don't want it back, but you do get it back, including all the assets there. And then, like I said, I have them do a life insurance policy for the amount of the seller note, so that if something happens, like it just did this last week, there's still protections in place. And when the family's grieving, they don't have to try and worry about dealing with that. It's just.
So basically, you guarantee with the assets of the buyer, like SBA do. And in case if the buyer defaults, the seller can claim. And how long the litigation takes before seller can? Have you ever had a chance?
I don't know. I've never seen anybody go.
You don't know. You haven't seen it.
I haven't had to see a seller go back on a buyer. Good, like I said, 4%, and not one have defaulted out of the escrow company that does probably 7 out of 10 deals.
I've done over 100 plus deals, but I never had an opportunity in Dubai because the sellers, I mean, it's a big no. Seller financing is none heard of. If you go to a seller and say, hey, can you sell me, give me your business and I'll pay you in 3 years, they'll just look at you like you're just kidding or joking or something.
Well, you gotta present it in the right light. I mean, reality is dictated by the lens you choose to view it through. And so I'm not saying that we're selling, but we're talking about the advantages. I mean, they get the interest. Right now, the SBA is like 10%, and they got teeth and claws on what they want the seller to hang on in the deal. It's a lot. It's a lot. And so if the seller gets mailbox money and interest and tax deferment, I mean, there's a lot of reasons to want to do a seller carry. And so I haven't had, once you explain the benefits, my sellers have been on board. They're actually, some of them are excited about it because they're getting 7% interest and, and mailbox money and that tax deferment. So I haven't had a lot of pushback, and it's worked out well.
And do you communicate the seller financing option to the seller at the beginning when you take the listing on board, or when you get an offer from a buyer?
No, like I said, we talk about it early and often because I'm not trying to blindside anybody, and I want to make sure that they're aware. Most of our buyers in smaller businesses are looking for cash and carry. I mean, they may have, and there's a lot of creative ways to access capital. They can do a Rob's rollover with their 401k, or there's even a Roth option now that kills capital gains when they sell it, which I really like. But, there's everything from pulling money out of the equity in their home to their own savings. I mean, they can put down a portion, but the seller carry piece enables them to buy more business, and the seller to be a little bit more discerning on what kind of a buyer, if legacy is important to them, and what kind of a buyer they're going to have taking over and being the steward of their company. Sometimes if they're looking for an all cash offer, sometimes they have to look at PE or, some of the other funding sources that may not be as personable an owner as they've been in the past. So it opens up the door for them to have a better buyer if they're willing to finance it themselves.
Right, great. And so basically, you negotiate at the time of taking a listing, what is the valuation and how it is, all the options to make the listing lucrative. So when you have a potential buyer, so it's easier for you to sell a business because your seller's expectations are already realistic.
So everybody has a different model on this. Some people will do a full valuation before they list the business so that there's an understanding. It's a lot of work to value a business too. Oftentimes I will do a quick look at the P&L and the balance sheet for the last 3 years, get a gauge of what their revenue is, what their either EBITDA or SDE is, and kind of get a gauge on what the value would be, the most probable selling price. And I want to weigh in from the owner what their expectation is and where that's coming from, whether it's emotional or whether it's actually something that you can quantify on paper. And sometimes sellers have unrealistic expectations of value, and there's a lot of emotion tied up into it with what they've invested with time and money, and they're wrapped up with their identity. It's who they are, not what they do. And they put a dollar sign on that. And I let the market lead it. So oftentimes I'll say, look, we can list at this price. I don't think that's realistic. This is the comparables that I'm seeing. These are the multiples that I'm seeing. This is where I get your cash flow from. This is what I think the most probable selling price is going to be. But let the market dictate that, because who knows? I never want a seller to leave money on the table. But we know that statistically, if a listing is 15% overpriced, a savvy buyer is going to skip right past it. They're going to look at the cash flow, the asking price, and say, doesn't pencil, next. And I don't want to spill good buyers on the floor, because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And in some industries, there's only a handful of buyers that are really strategic and well suited to purchase that business. So you want to show up right. So it's a balancing act between, letting the market give them feedback and correct their perception on value and support what I'm telling them on a most probable selling price without leaving money on the table for them. So.
All right. Okay. Do you take listings only on your local area, or you go far in the entire state or other states?
I go far, entire state, yeah, all over and out of state. I'm listing in Oklahoma that I'm working with right now. It depends on, if I'm going to help personally, it depends on whether they need someone close in person to be able to do, buyer seller meetings and tour the facilities and those kind of things. If that seller wants more of a personal hand-holding touch, then sometimes a local broker is better. But oftentimes, you're in Dubai, I'm in Colorado, here we are connecting, and technology has really made it a much smaller world. So we can be of service.
But I think in brick and mortar businesses, it's important at some point at the deal cycle, a physical negotiation, not maybe earlier on. Like what we do is we do a lot of the initial process with the seller and the buyer online and this and that. Once you have a negotiation and stuff, I think, because the buyer wants to go and visit the business and they want to go and negotiate. So it's important to meet in person.
Yes, I agree. And I'm happy to do that. I love to do that. Give me a reason to write off travel expenses. Yes. So it's good. No
So do you charge travel expenses on buyer seller's account, or you pay all the cost?
Oh no, I pay all the costs. That's the cost of doing business. Yeah, but
right, it's entirely a cost covered by yourself.
By myself, yeah. That's part of my business cost incurred.
Yeah. Right. Okay. In Dubai, that's another good thing, and we are lucky in so many ways. We are on right place at right time. I mean, the market is growing. We're getting a huge influx of people moving from Europe, UK, Canada, Australia. So we get a lot of inquiries. People want to move and buy a business in Dubai. It's all cash. There's no SPA. We get paid well. I think better commission than what you get in US. As I know, the closing cycle is I sold a business in 1 week. Can you imagine? I once sold a business. We had a meeting on Monday, and Friday seller get the money, and Monday the buyer was the owner of the business. So we get these deals which gets closed in 30 days, 60 days. I think you take a lot of time to close a deal. So how long generally takes for you to close a deal from start to finish?
Well, we've closed deals in a week too. I haven't personally, but in my office we call them smash and grabs. When you've got, a cash buyer and a deal that doesn't need a lease assignment or a franchise approval or any of those kind of things. If you have two willing parties and the cash is available, we can close lightning fast. With the SBA, the fastest I've gotten through is 62 days from LOI to close through the SBA and franchise. That's my record. But our sales cycle, the average in the United States, the sales cycle average for a business is 9 to 11 months. In our office, we're 6 to 9 months because we actively market them. We're not just putting it on Biz Buy Sell and waiting for a buyer to call. Like, we have lists and we have fixed ops staff to pull specific buyer lists and do buyer blasts. And so, every time we sell a business, we have multiple buyers looking at it. So we've got tons of good buyers in certain industries that we send out targeted outreach when we have something. I've got a land survey company for sale, and I had my guy pull every land survey company in the state and part of Kansas. And I pick up the phone and I've been talking to owners like, hey, have you ever thought of growing by acquisition? This is a great bolt-on territory to what you're already doing. There's a lot of efficiency areas that you can combine costs and just run leaner. And so,
you don't charge commission to the buyer, right? In US?
Nope.
Okay,
nope.
we do. We do here. We charge both sides.
Oh. That's
so how much you charge to seller?
So if a business is under $1 million, it's a 12% with a minimum of $20,000, and there's a $2,500 engagement fee up front to be able to value the business and prepare the executive summary and do all of the preliminary marketing and things. If it's
$2,500,
Yeah, $2,500 is the engagement fee, and then if it's
for
over
every listing you take on board.
It depends on the complexity. If we've got multiple locations, if we've got multiple companies under one entity, and we're trying to separate out, or do an ESOP or one of the. It depends on the complexity. 2,500 is the standard. It can go up from there depending on what exactly is involved. And then it goes to a modified Lehman's agreement if we go over $1 million.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good.
So tell me about Dubai.
That's quite a decent.
You get paid better than we do. Tell me a little bit about what the commission looks like on your side of the world.
In Dubai we get same 10%, but that's how I structured. I know your office in Transworld, they work with the same model because once I know them, I know the person who managed it. Once we were having a chat, so they are bound by the franchise model to charge the seller the higher commission. But what I see is I charge 5% to a seller and 5% to a buyer. But on a buy side, we provide a lot of support because majority of buyers are international buyers. So we give them a due diligence service in that fee. We give them a share transfer, a lot of other services. If they hire lawyers, it's going to cost them money. Why I charge less to a seller? Because if I go to a business, oftentimes the same listing, the Transworld office has it, and we have it on a lower valuation because I don't work on exclusivity. All our listings are non-exclusivity, and sellers here, they don't like to be exclusive with the brokers. So, I mean, very often the same listing is with the Transworld and same listing is with Sell Anyways. So if Transworld has listed the same business for $1 million, we have listed for 800,000. Why? Because we charge 5%. So think about it. Who's going to pay the commission? So if seller is expecting 800,000 and they're going to say, okay, the broker is going to charge 200,000, so they're going to increase the price on top of what they're expecting. So, and it worked. Often, because I charge a lower commission on seller, and on the other hand, by adding a value to the buyer side, I chose to charge. So my total commission is the same what you charge, but the way I structure it, I negotiate a very good price with the seller. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So my valuations are very realistic.
Yeah, interesting, different model. I appreciate the difference. Yeah, creative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of works pretty good. So because at the end of the day, if the buyer sees that the same business is listed for 800,000 and another broker is selling for $1 million, naturally they're going to go with the broker who's selling it for 800. Do you take exclusive listings or you go non-exclusive?
I do. No, we take exclusive listings. Like I said, we're regulated by the Department of Real Estate, and we share a lot of the contracts with the Department of Real Estate. And so the exclusive right to sell listing establishes our agency relationship with our sellers. And, I appreciate it that way because we do a lot of work on our listings. Like you were talking about with the plastic top, a duck across a pond and underneath there furiously paddling. There's a lot of work that goes into getting a deal across the finish line. And we are active in that. I'm not passive, just kind of, putting it up online and hoping someone reaches out. So the amount of work that I do on a deal, I would like to know that when I sell that deal, I'll get paid. And I'm not, competing against my seller. I don't want to compete against my seller. I want them to be able to run the business and know that the transaction and the sale is being taken care of by me. We offer diligence services too. For little deals, we have templates so that they don't need to have it written up by their attorney. And of course, because I'm not an attorney, I always recommend that somebody has an attorney put eyes on it, but to have it structured out in a template was a much more affordable and flexible way. And then we run diligence meetings and connect them to all the resources that they need to be able to get the deal done. And we're really micromanagers in that space. Like I herd cats like a champ. I'm a single mom to teenagers and have, all those things. I can get a deal across the finish line, and it's a lot. I've had buyers and sellers come back to me and say, I was so hesitant to list with the broker because I didn't want to pay the commission. And we get them a higher offer because we bring competition into the market instead of them, selling to their employee, and they have this reservation in their head that they don't need to move fast. There's no sense of motivation. There's no, market competition. And and we close fast and allow them to focus on running the business so their financials don't suffer in the process of selling it. I mean, it's really hard to run a business. A lot of my people come to me lack of bandwidth. They are burned out. They're tired of employees or whatever challenges they have, their why for wanting to sell. Trying to manage a sales process on top of it's nearly impossible.
So you don't say no to any listing. So you take up any listings, regardless of if it's profitable, not profitable, whatever. So
pretty close.
So don't you feel the reason why I tell you why I'm not taking exclusive listings at salary biz, and I don't like to, even if the seller says that, oh yeah, can you be exclusive? Because we don't sell every business. We list, and of some businesses they never get sold. And some business they take more than a year. Some business they never 6 months and thing. But don't you think you work as an exclusive agent when you have an exclusivity with the seller? After a month or two, seller would call you and hey, what happened to my business? Did you find a buyer? Oh, regardless of I'm sure we work very hard on the back of the listing, but the seller doesn't know, or if he's not informed, all the activities been going on and stuff. Why you're not selling? You're not doing anything. I'm tied up with you. I'm not able to list anywhere else. do you feel this as pressurized by the seller often? No?
No, I find it that I take a personal responsibility for the listings that I sign, to where I work to get them a buyer. I just got done closing a camper manufacturing company that I've had for sale for 2 years. And it took us that long to find the right buyer. And once we did, we closed in 32 days from LOI to close.
Right.
But it took a while to find the right buyer. And I don't stop. And I'm in communication with my sellers through the whole process. Usually it's bi-weekly, at least. Sometimes if a listing is older and I'm not getting any new activity, I may touch in every month, but just give them feedback on the market. And I can show statistics and data on who's looking at it, what kind of conversations I've had. They actually feel more reassured knowing that I'm that invested in getting their business sold, that it is an exclusive relationship, that they have. I think that ties into the relationship piece versus the transaction piece. They're not just listing it on a billboard or on a website. I mean, that's very transactional. And there's, you know, in the automotive industry, we say there's a butt for every seat. There's a method of sale for every seller. The sellers that we work with appreciate the fact that we are actively engaging buyers and working on their behalf. And I touch base
Basically,
with them.
you sell a business like you're selling your own business. Like you act like you're kind of a business owner and you're trying to sell it, with the passion and with the care.
With the passion and with intention and with energy and effort that I can quantify. I can show statistics and data and all of the things that give the seller a peek behind the curtain of what the market looks like, what kind of response they're getting, what the feedback is.
Tali, generally my episodes, I try to do it less than 30 minutes, but we are about 50. I'm getting the signal that from Glory. I'm really enjoying I think the reason why I went so far, because I'm really connecting with you, because I can share, I think we can talk for hours and hours and share more stories and things. Probably we can have another episode, but we have to end our discussion today. Finally, how someone can get in touch with you if they want to sell a business through you, how you're reachable, and then we will end our today's episode.
I'm very reachable. You can get me on my cell, which is 720-853-4868, or you can email me at my first initial T, my last name Levin, Levin, at tworld.com, or you can get me through LinkedIn, Tali Levin. You can Google Tali broker and I'll come up all over the place. So I'm very, very findable.
Amazing. Thank you, Tali. So you're famous now. So our listeners know that they want to find her, Google her. All right. Thank you. So this is me signing off. Follow my YouTube channel and listen to your podcast wherever you get it, and see you next time.